What's going on, you guys? Before we get into today's review, just a heads up that there is going to be a lot of spoilers. So if you have Stellar Blade tucked away somewhere far, far in your backlog, but you still want to play it at some point, but don't want to be spoiled, I would highly recommend watching one of my other videos or something else until you decide to play it. If you've already played Stellar Blade, or you just don't mind spoilers and want to be informed on your purchasing decision, then enjoy the video. Discussing humans versus machines is an age-old topic, creating dividing and polarizing conversations and opinions. Should machines become sentient? Will AI take over and become just curious enough to question its existence? AI is only as powerful as the people who create it, and on that same token, curiosity is obtained only if it's put into the android's programming. Stellar Blade tells a story of androids that become just curious enough, who are lied to and believe humans did not create them, but that they are humans themselves. The story, the mechanics, the overall flow of the game create a harmonious and well thought out experience, allowing all parts to run equally, leaving no aspect of the game to suffer. What's going on, you guys? It's your Huggable Hipster here, and welcome back to the channel. In today's review, I'm going to be talking about Stellar Blade. Going into a new game is probably one of the most exciting things to experience. That and a good calzone. Stellar Blade takes its time with the player, escorting them through a bounty of slow-paced world building and crafting certain characters so that a steady connection is built. Unfortunately, not all characters you travel with get the same love as Eve and Lily did in terms of how the relationship between the player and the character was nurtured. Adam's character was just okay. I felt that he lacked emotion and drive and didn't really give me a reason to hate him or like him for that matter. Now, the story of this game was a balancing act of ethics, religious references, and intricately done mechanics. So having a character who is the main villain that saves you, then betrays you, is supposed to have more weight. But his character was just bland and someone that I felt rather indifferent about. Now, Lily, on the other hand, was spunky, she was empathetic, she was joyous, and created this space for Eve to just exist and cheered her on, but also questioned things in the haze of her disbelief about the creation of the androids. The story as a whole brought a new meaning to what an existential crisis is, and at the very end, seeing how you can choose Adam's side or do things on your own references religion in a very unique way. It's no coincidence that the two main characters are named Adam and Eve, giving the whole underlying message of the story a psychological undertone of needing to know about creation and who created us. The us, in this instance, the android. And to top it all off, the endings of this game were so vastly different and well done. If you take Adam's hand, Eve and Adam unite as one entity. If you refuse, you're basically fighting the father of humanity. The story as a whole, I felt, will either be continued or capped off in the next Stellar Blade game, but for right now, it has a very steady base to work with. From downloading memories to moving the story forward every time you rest, the narrative design and how this game managed to incorporate themes of longing to understand creation of both humans and androids, to see humanity crumble and what humans turned into as a means of survival, the Natibas. Now let's dive into the mechanics because, oh my gosh, the mechanics and the way the controls were designed in this game were absolutely incredible. It's like Sekiro whenever it comes to the parrying and how kind of on top of the enemies you have to be. You need to have almost an overly aggressive playstyle when confronting each of the bosses. Each boss is different in terms of how you need to approach it, and if you like insane enemies and difficult bosses, you are in for a treat. Now, just to be clear, just to be very, very clear on something, this game is not, I repeat, not a Souls-like. But just because this game is difficult doesn't mean that it is a Souls-like. I've said it before. I've said it, I can't even count how many times I've said it on this channel. Whenever you see difficulty, please do not associate difficulty with it being a Souls-like. That is just one small thing on what a Souls-like is, on the entirety of what a Souls-like is. Plus, Eve, she has her own motives and goals. In a Dark Souls game or in a Souls-like, the character is kind of more malleable, if you will. I will say the difficulty of this game will be easier actually if you've played games to the likes of Sekiro or Elden Ring, considering that those games have very aggressive playstyles and very aggressive bosses that test the skill of a player. The bosses in Stellar Blade also vary in how to approach them and how you should parry their attacks. Now this will apply, of course, to all of the bosses in the game, but specifically with Belial, Raven, and Elder Natiba, you really want to pay attention to their attack styles, when to parry, when to attack, when to take a break, when to heal, all of that. Now, a lot of the bosses, of course, will have their own set of difficulty, but these three in particular were the ones that caused me the most trouble and took me the most time to fight. If you're not accustomed to difficult games and this is your first time playing something as aggressive in its playstyle as this, the biggest advice I can give to you is pay attention to the QuickTime cues on the screen and learn the moveset of the bosses. It also pays to upgrade and learn about the upgrading system for Eve. It can be personalized to your playstyle since there is so much to choose from when enhancing her and her attacks. There's also some things in the game that might make you want to go into this title headfirst or steer clear of it entirely. If you enjoy puzzles, some platforming, and the heavy reliance on not knowing when something might happen so you'll need to be ready type of energy, then this title will be a joy for you. There are some areas that have puzzles, so just to make you aware that some are optional and some aren't. The aesthetics of the bosses as well as their corresponding scores that play over top felt like a cinematic dream. Each score was different, conveying different emotions throughout the experience. The unidentified Natiba was my personal favorite in its creature design. It was absolutely incredible and morbid and just gorgeous to look at. Bataki and Raven were my favorites in terms of mechanics and how well some of the boss fights were done. It was like fighting another version of Eve, so it was challenging and incredibly fun to face off against that character. From browsing shops and side quests in Zion to changing outfits because you need the perfect gear to save the world, to fighting unique bosses or even just existing in photo mode for a bit, this game as a whole offers so much substance and immersive storytelling. Eve is an absolute badass who just wants to help others in need. As she slowly starts to see the truth and unravels the story alongside the player, we get a glimpse into a unique narrative design that questions existence in the most fun and honest way. The discussion on humans versus machines being revitalized and given new meaning is refreshing. If a game can motivate people to question the meaning of life healthily, it's a game worth playing. But I hope you all enjoyed this review. If you guys like my face and what I do, please be sure to subscribe and hit that bell down below. If you find your worth in the waking world, your hunter, stay casually nerdy, and I will see you all in the next video. Umbasa.